Hello, spooky crew. Our tote bag drawing is officially closed, and we just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who entered. We are so grateful for the love and the support, and we have loved reading your reviews. Missed the tote? No worries. We're still sending out high-quality vinyl stickers while supplies last. Just email us proof of your rating and review along with your mailing address to thespookydarlings@gmail.com, and we'll get one headed your way. Quick promise, your address is only for mailing the sticker. No emails, no selling info, no funny business, just spooky gratitude. Thanks again for supporting the show. You are the reason we do this. You're listening to The Spooky Darlings, a podcast where three sisters get together and talk about anything scary and spooky. And today, Emily is taking the lead on a topic that I don't think you or I, Haley, know anything about.
But who are you?
But I'm Nettie.
I'm Haley.
I'm Emily.
You guys are so obsessed with introducing ourselves. So, Emily, I'm excited. I have no idea. I know that you said something to do with Valentine's Day because you were asking about publishing schedule and whether or not it would be published before Valentine's Day. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a love story.
Yes.
Or a massacre.
Or a massacre.
So it is a little bit of both, actually. So,
Yes.
I mean, I kind of just gave something away that I was gonna reveal later, but
Well, I can cut that out.
Should we?
no, it's okay. I was thinking of you guys, not any other listeners. So
Oh, okay.
okay, so the year is 1971 near Durham, North Carolina. Patricia Mann and Jesse McBane grew up in nearby little towns where everybody knew each other. Everybody knew their neighbors. Everybody knew each other's business. Everyone knew who was going out with who. These towns were about 20 minutes away from each other. Patricia, or she also went by Pat, was 20 years old, and she was a nursing student doing her residential training at Watts Hospital in Durham, North Carolina. This was a pretty prestigious program. Her cousin, who was her best friend, had applied also and hadn't gotten in. So this nursing program is no longer operating. It closed in 1976, and it's now affiliated with Duke University Health System. But it was a good program, and Pat was a really good student. She was social, everybody liked her, but she took her studies really seriously. She was petite. She was 5 feet tall, weighed about 100 pounds. She was blonde, and she was really, really beautiful. Okay. And she had been dating since high school. She'd been dating a tall, really handsome. He was a football player in high school. His name was Jesse McBane. He was. Some accounts say he was 18 years old still. He was a freshman in college, but other accounts say he was 19 years old. So I'm not actually sure. So he was 18 or 19 years old and was a freshman at North Carolina State in Raleigh, which was one town over. That was pretty close still. He was 6 feet tall, had brown eyes, brown hair. He was really kind. Nobody had anything bad to say about him. He was a lot of fun, always finding ways to make people laugh. He had good relationships with his siblings.
Just like us.
Yes.
As I said, he had been a football player in high school, but he was studying textile technology at North Carolina State.
Okay.
And he and Pat had been dating since high school for about 3 years, and they had recently become promised to each other. So they weren't engaged, but they were
we will.
engaged to be engaged, and she had a promise ring.
Cute.
Okay, that is cute. Is textile technology like fabrics and the technology that goes behind making and manufacturing fabrics?
I think so.
I bet.
So they obviously did not have cell phones at the time. You know, it was 1971. So and also, I don't know if you guys remember, but because we grew up before cell phones, but the long distance calls were kind of expensive, and you'd get in trouble if you made long distance calls. So they were living one town away from each other, but they communicated by letter, to make dates, to set up dates. They would write each other letters to make their plans. So they made plans for a Valentine's dance Friday night, February 12th, 1971. Pat and Jesse had wanted to go. Jesse and his brother shared a car. So Jesse and I think it was his younger brother. It was not Jesse's night to have the car, but he, at the last minute, was able to convince his brother to trade him nights. And so he got the car and he went and picked up Pat. They attended the Watts Hospital Valentine's dance, and witnesses saw them leave the dance around 11:30 p.m. And Pat went to her dorm and signed out. You had to sign out to have a late return, and then the final end curfew was 1 a.m.
Oh,
So
and
she
then
had signed
you
out,
get locked out?
promised to be back. Yes, I think you would get locked out. So she'd promised to be back at 1 a.m.
Okay.
So Pat's roommates or dorm mates got really worried when she didn't return at curfew. This was really unlike her. She was responsible. She wasn't the kind that would skip or stay out when she had said she would be back.
Yeah.
She kept her words and always followed the rules. So Pat's family was contacted, and Jesse's family was contacted, and the police were notified that they were missing. The police at first were like, hey, it's two kids, like they're in love. They're probably just off together. Maybe they've eloped. The whole family was like, absolutely not. They have our blessing to get married if they want to. They wouldn't just run off and do that without telling anybody. Plus, nothing, like none of their belongings had been packed. Like
Right.
nothing was missing from their dorms.
And it sounds like who they are, like before this, it's just like, no, across the board, something's wrong.
Yeah. So the police do end up opening a missing persons investigation. They were trying to find them, these two promising young adults. The families offered a reward of $500 for, any help finding them. Apparently that night, the night of February 12th, before anybody even realized that they were missing, an unknown male called the emergency room at Watts Hospital, claiming to be Jesse's father, and it was not Jesse's father, asking if his son had been admitted there.
Wow.
So it was 4 full days of searching before, on February 16th, they had their first break in the missing persons case. One of Jesse's friends found Jesse's car parked in like a lover's lane type spot
Yeah.
near the Crowsdale Golf Course in Durham County. So it was kind of almost like the end of a cul-de-sac type place. All these people knew, which it does surprise me a little bit that it took them so long to find the car, because it seemed like everybody knew where these lovers lane spots were, and everybody kind of had their own, and they would like kind of stay away from each other's lovers lane spots.
Does it make you wonder if the car showed up later?
That's a possibility that I didn't encounter, but it makes sense to wonder that. So Jesse's friend finds Jesse's car parked there. It was at the end of a cul-de-sac. The temperatures were cold, so it was really odd that both Jesse and Pat's coats were still in the back of the car.
Oh, shoot.
Also, Pat's pantyhose were found neatly folded in the car.
Oh, no.
But Jesse and Pat were nowhere to be found. So search parties continue searching. They're unsuccessful for days. On February 24th, so this is 12 days after they had gone missing, a surveyor was walking in Duke Woods, which we were in Durham County before with where the car was found and where the dance took place. But Duke Woods is in a neighboring county just 3 miles away. But Orange County is where Duke Woods is. So
In a different county. They were only 3 miles difference, but it was across county lines, 3 miles
Yes.
away. Yeah.
yes, so this surveyor was walking in the woods, and this was down a single lane dirt road. It was not, you'd have to know the area to know where this place was. It was not a well-traveled area, but he saw what he thought at first was a mannequin leg,
Oh, no.
and it was not a mannequin leg. He found that it was the bodies of Patricia Mann and Jesse McBane.
Oh, jeez.
They were tied to a tree. Their hands had been tied, and they were tied on opposite sides of the tree, but both of them tied to the tree.
Oh.
And evidence found at the scene painted a pretty grim picture. They had been strangled multiple times, like to the point of passing out, but then allowed to
Revive.
come back to consciousness and catch their breath before being strangled again. So they were tortured repeatedly.
Awful.
And there were marks in the mud showing that they had kicked hard as they struggled for breath. There were no signs of sexual assault, but there were signs that the killer was a sadist.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my goodness.
So he had taken his time. torturing these two. And at some point before death, Pat received a blow, either a kick or a punch or a knee to the stomach that caused a tear in her liver.
Oh.
And they had both been stabbed after death. So the theory is that maybe the killer was using some sort of instrument to just check to make sure that they were dead after their final strangulation.
Gosh,
Wow. So awful.
it's terrible.
Pat's promise ring was still on her finger. Jesse's wallet was still with him.
Oh.
Jesse's class ring was still on him. And
So it wasn't a
Robbery.
yeah, his watch, his class ring, and his wallet were still there. Robbery was ruled out as a motive.
Wow.
So since it was 3 miles from where Jesse's car had been left, they thought that probably they had somehow been taken from their car, either under false pretenses, like with somebody that they could have known, like, hey, I need help or something, or under duress, possibly with a gun. And Jesse was not a small guy. Like, he had been a football player and he was tall, and there had to have been some reason that he went.
Right. So someone either has a gun on them or,
Yes,
like,
something like that.
remind me what year?
This was 1971.
71. Okay.
So with it being a single lane dirt road, not many people really knew about this road. They figured that the killer must have been familiar with the area. It was secluded, and they felt like the killer must have known that nobody really knew this area because they wouldn't hear, they weren't worried about somebody coming upon them or hearing any struggles or cries as they took their time
Wow.
with what they did to Jesse and Pat.
That's so terrible.
But by April 1971, there had still been no arrests made. Governor Bob Scott offered a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrests because, you know, it was like just one of those things that kind of rocked the community and rocked the state. Everybody was talking about it. Mm-hmm. And the press had started to refer to the case as the Valentine's Day murders. Even though it didn't occur on Valentine's Day, it was two lovers celebrating a Valentine's dance.
Yeah.
The detectives had a well-respected psychiatrist and like FBI profiler weigh in. His name was Dr. James A. Brussel, and he had done profiles on the Boston Strangler and other famous crimes.
Okay.
And he basically said that he thought that the killer was very intelligent, but a loner, precise, educated, probably had some sort of rejection complex and also a superiority complex.
Micro penis, like the Golden State Killer.
Impotent why he stabbed him.
Oh, could be.
Well, and he thought that probably the person that called the hospital on the night was the killer because nobody else even knew that they were missing at this point.
Right. That is, yeah. That I wondered about that.
So Patricia's cousin, or Pat's cousin, her name was Carolyn Spivey. They were, as I said, they grew up near each other. They were best friends. She thought that Patricia seemed kind of troubled in the weeks leading up to her murder. She knew that something had been bothering her, and she didn't ever get the chance to really like sit down and talk with her about it before it was too late. But she wondered like what it was, what was bothering her. Mm-hmm. There had been a rumor that was never substantiated about Pat possibly catching someone stealing medication at the hospital. So that's one thing that investigators were kind of trying to look into. They were basically trying to identify and check out every possible suspect, like basically any person. They figured it was probably a man because of being able to overpower Jesse. Mm-hmm. So they were just basically taking every single person that encountered these two in their lives and trying to basically rule them out one by one. Most of the suspects that they approached were cooperative and agreed to polygraphs. And at this time in the 70s, they still really relied heavily on polygraphs and they trusted polygraphs. They weren't like considered to be problematic. And investigators that are still alive that worked on this case, they even still say like, I trust a polygraph. You know, that was kind of the operating assumption at the time. But all in all, 6 agencies ended up working on this case, including the Durham police, which is the jurisdiction where the car was found.
Right.
The Orange County Sheriff's Department, which is the jurisdiction where the bodies were found. The SBI, which don't get that confused like I did. It sounds like I'm saying FBI, but it's S. It's the State Bureau of Investigation of North Carolina.
Right. S is in Fort Sando.
Yes. So, but unfortunately, at the time, these agencies were not sharing information. So I couldn't actually hear what you said just now. What did you say?
I'll probably cut it out. I said S is in Fort Sando. I was trying to think of a word that started with S but had an F sound, and the only one I could come up with was Fort Sando. So I just said S is in Fort Sando. And then
yes.
But anyways,
Perfect.
move on.
And we
Moving
loved
on.
it.
You did that thing where you said, I couldn't hear what you said, but I saw you doing that thing where you like kind of mouth it to yourself after you say it and like do your little head thing. You know what I'm talking about.
And I looked at Haley.
I laughed when you said it.
Yes, she did.
I just didn't hear it. Sorry. You can cut that out. Okay.
I will probably. We'll see.
So these agencies were not sharing information with each other, and they're actually even kind of seemed to be a little bit of a...
Like in competition?
Yes, they all kind of wanted to be the one that cracked the case, and, their egos were involved.
I feel like that was like really common in the 70s in police departments across at least the country, if not the world, just very like, this is ours and we're not sharing. And rather than like, the bigger picture here is we solve this case, you guys, let's share.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seemed like they were a little bit possessive. They were hoarding information, which is unfortunate because it probably, detectives that have reopened the case now later on, like years later, do kind of feel like it probably could have been solved if all the information that everybody had been shared.
Yeah. That is so common with so many cases. It's just like you guys got in your own way by being so bullheaded. Anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right, Haley.
I want to mention right here that so a lot of the information that I got on this case. So there were a few really great news articles, but there was a podcast called The Long Dance that was an 8-episode podcast that dived really deep into this entire case. And they interviewed some of the surviving victims' family and friends and investigators that had worked on the case then and now. It's really interesting if you do want to have a deeper dive into this case.
The Long Dance.
So, and most of my information about the suspects that I'm about to share with you did come from that podcast, from The Long Dance.
Okay.
So Patricia Mann had a pen pal. So this was during the Vietnam War. She had written to a soldier named Gerald Brignac, and he had recently returned home and had asked her a few times to meet up, and she declined. She didn't know if he was asking her for a date or not, but she just declined. She didn't quite think it was appropriate. The police decided to look into him, but he had an airtight alibi. His sister had gotten married that weekend. So he was out of town at a wedding with tons of people there and lots of pictures. So there's just absolutely no way that he had anything to do with it. He was cleared as a suspect, and later, he spoke fondly of Patricia and just honestly how kind it was of her to send care packages and letters to a stranger, because he was in such a hellish time when he was a young soldier overseas. And he just said it was just such a positive thing in the worst time of his life to receive letters from a nice young girl.
That's so nice.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 other main suspects, 2 doctors and a scoundrel. So I'm going to start
And a scoundrel?
My money is on one of the doctors. I don't know why.
Scoundrel.
So
Also, 2 doctors and a scoundrel would be a great title for something.
Like a deep dive.
Like this episode.
it could be.
Did we just name it?
We did.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's see.
We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to start with doctor number 1. The first doctor, he was not a suspect right away, but they started to look at him when a complaint was lodged against him in 1978. So this is several years after the murders. But Martha Graham lodged a complaint against Dr. James Stephen Walter Wilson. And apparently there are 2 doctors with the same name, and one of them is like a beloved doctor that nobody has anything bad to say about, also in the Durham area. So not to be confused, there are 2 different ones.
Oh, that poor guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Martha Graham lodged a complaint against Dr. James Stephen Walter Wilson, he had threatened her at the place that they both worked. People were afraid of him. He was said to be brilliant but unstable. He was a liar and an embellisher. Martha worked in forensic ID, but she had known Dr. Wilson for years because they were students together at the University of Kentucky. So Martha and her husband hung out socially with Dr. Stephen Walter Wilson and his then wife. So they'd known each other for a long time.
The Dr. Wilson we don't like, they had hung out with.
The bad Dr. Wilson. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there had been a murder at Transylvania University. A woman named Betty Gale Brown was found strangled in her car, and Martha Graham suspected that Dr. Wilson had something to do with it. This is strangled by her bra strap.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Why did you figure out why Martha thought Dr. Wilson had something to do with it?
I think because of him being there and then like things kind of later unfolding in a weird way, she just said that. This is like her own opinion and has not been followed up on by any kind of law enforcement. I'm just sharing it recklessly.
I don't know why, but I trust Martha.
So on the night of the Friday before Valentine's Day, the night of February 12th, when the two young lovers, Pat and Jesse, went missing, the two couples, Martha Graham and her husband, and Dr. Wilson and his wife had planned to have dinner together. But it was at Dr. Wilson's house, and he didn't show up until after midnight. She said he was acting really weird.
Wow.
He kept looking out of windows. He just was dysregulated. And the house that Dr. Wilson lived in with his wife was only a quarter mile away from where the bodies were found.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Guilty.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Dr. Wilson also taught respiratory therapy at Watts Hospital.
Oh, so he was like very what's the word? Like knowledgeable about the resuscitation process.
Could have been a fetish.
Yes, and he had encountered Pat Mann.
He had encountered Pat?
He taught the respiratory therapy class that she took, and he had asked her out, and she refused.
Oh, because she had a boyfriend, Dr. Wilson.
Had a boyfriend.
Dr. Wilson, you have a wife.
After the bodies had been found, he took his friends, including Martha Graham, to the scene and said weird things like, if these trees could talk. And it just gave everybody a really creepy vibe.
Wow.
He was a super smart man, as I said earlier, but he was vindictive and volatile. He and his two friends, or no, I guess maybe he and one other man, wrote a...
So he doesn't have two friends.
He has. Well, he's passed away now. But they wrote a textbook, an anatomy textbook called The Anatomical Basis of Medical Practice by James Walter Wilson and Roland Frederick Becker. And it was super problematic. They used Playboy models, had them pose nude. They had Playboy photographers take the pictures, and they said really like gross things about like, as a doctor, you've got to be prepared to see the backside. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it was pretty troubling stuff. So obviously people were offended and complained, and contracts with schools used this book for teaching were canceled, and the book was pulled. And you can still find the book. You can look it up online. But
oh yeah, no thanks.
This just demonstrates his...
Nettie, stop Googling.
This demonstrates his view towards women, though. Like he had a hard time viewing them as really much other than like he objectified them, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in addition, he had trouble working with women. He had assaulted and threatened coworkers, and even his wife. He got upset with his wife and beat her with a kettle in front of his kids.
Oh no. My gosh, a kettle?
His wife divorced him, and he was committed after that, but he apparently claimed to have found Jesus and was let go and allowed to get back into the medical profession. And then throughout, even after his wife remarried, he wrote letters to his kids, basically calling their mother a whore and awful things. So he wasn't a nice man. He had a particular affinity for blonde women.
Okay. Pat was blonde.
Pat was blonde. Yeah. He was also known to lie and insert himself into high profile happenings. Like he claimed to have been present at something to do with 9/11. He loved to pretend to have been part of high profile things. So while there isn't any hard evidence that could link him to the crime, weird things that he said, some people are like, was he just doing that thing where he likes to insert himself into relevant things, or, or was he really part of it? Was he pissed off that Pat had rejected him? And, we don't really know. And he passed away in 2009. So basically, a lot of the people that knew him said that he was an asshole and that he was troubled, and he was violent, but they couldn't see him going that far as to kill somebody. So that's suspect doctor number one.
I just don't, when people say I could never picture this person doing this, I just don't think you that's the whole point of being a killer, is you don't go around being like, well, I think about killing people and I'd kill someone. You don't, that's not the part of the personality that
presents
that's put
itself
forward. Ask the people that knew Ted Bundy personally,
And rule.
Yeah, I mean, I think also just knowing how quickly he could lose control of himself, that does kind of paint a picture that's,
I think
troubling.
if you're capable of beating your wife with a kettle in front of your kids, you're probably capable of murder. I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
In our opinion.
So there was another investigator named R.D. Love. He was working for yet another agency, the North Carolina License and Theft Bureau. So this was mostly to do with cars and thefts.
Did he primarily investigate Valentine's Day centered crimes with a name like R.D. Love? No?
You would think so. So he got a tip from an informant, and we actually don't know who the informant was because R.D. Love is no longer with us and did not reveal his source. But an informant pointed him to a suspect in this murder case. Even though it wasn't his case, but he had an informant say hey, there's this guy. He is saying weird stuff, and he's collecting clippings about the missing couple, or then after they were found, the murdered couple.
Whoa. I'm already convinced as the doctor. I don't know if I want holes poked in my theory. But go ahead.
But what if it was two?
A team.
Anyways, Emmy, go.
So this is James Brandon Ray, or Jimmy Ray.
Is this a scoundrel?
He was the scoundrel.
Okay, scoundrel. He sounds like Jimmy Ray.
He was kind of a lady charmer. Even his ex-wives that he treated poorly, still kind of had a soft spot for him. He wasn't violent.
Yeah.
But he was mad at his wife that had a small baby for being pregnant again, and he started dating six other women. So
dude,
he was just kind of not really quite holding it together in the best way.
Sounds like a big baby.
Sounds like a scallywag.
So supposedly on February 12th, the day that the couple went missing, Jimmy Ray had asked his neighbor if he could borrow a rope. This neighbor was named Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins owned a roofing company, actually still does own a roofing company. He said that he needed to pull his car from a ditch. So this was during the day on February 12th. Collins was like, dude, my rope that you're asking to borrow is too skinny. It's going to snap. No, you can't borrow it. And then he just kind of went about his business. And soon after, though, Mr. Collins' son called his dad and was like, hey, Dad, that guy took your rope and he left.
What?
So Jimmy Ray supposedly took the rope. And then also supposedly later, after the bodies had been discovered, Mr. Collins, and I don't actually know the context for why Mr. Collins was with the police and seeing any kind of evidence, but he saw the rope from the crime scene and was like, hey, that's my rope. And he told the police.
So premeditated if it was Jimmy Ray, because he was asking to borrow the rope the morning of the dance or the day of the dance.
Yeah, could be. Also, the day that the bodies were discovered, or the day after the bodies were discovered, Jimmy sold his car. So
Jimmy.
Police later did track down the car to the guy that he sold it to, and they were able to test fibers from the car against what they found at the crime scene, but there wasn't anything definitive. But he also said some weird stuff to the guy that he sold the car to about the crime and like details that weren't publicly known. So that kind of was odd, right?
Yeah.
Also, and this is pretty troubling, while he wasn't known to be violent, he did have a blue and red light in his car that he would use to pull people over and impersonate an officer.
Well, that's illegal.
Dude.
It is illegal. So R.D. Love being part of the...
Oh, R.D. Love. I thought it was Artie.
Oh, it's the letter R and the letter D, and I don't know what it stands for.
Oh, Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney. Oh, perfect. Rodney Dangerfield.
So being part of the Carolina License and Theft Bureau, he was involved in this type of criminal activity, and he and his partner had even, like, unrelated to the missing people or anything, like before it even happened, they had pulled Jimmy Ray over at some point near the area where Jesse and Pat had been found.
Uh-huh.
And, before they had even connected him to anything. So they pulled him over for having this blue and red light in his car. And he had some excuse, like that he was part of some sort of rescue club or like rescue volunteer thing.
Yeah, likely.
He had an excuse, but they poked holes in that too. Like it was basically like a group that had not been in existence for years or something. So R.D. Love is like, he already knows that this guy's has some troubling things, and he hears from his informant that that he's saying troubling things. So this investigator, R.D. Love, was trying to figure out where Jimmy Ray was. He wanted to ask him some questions because he had that tip from his informant. He didn't know where he was, but later in 1971, so the same year that Pat and Jesse were killed, Jimmy was in an accident riding a motorcycle that turned out to have been stolen. So when authorities realized, first they realized that he was on parole for auto theft, and then they heard that R.D. Love wanted to talk to this guy. So R.D. Love went and looked in Jimmy Ray's trailer that he was living in, and he found police badges, a wig, 2 prop guns or blank pistols, I guess. Like they weren't real guns, but they held blanks.
Right.
As well as 2 keys to storage lockers at Watts Hospital. Which is where Pat was doing her training.
Also, did you say that his wife or girlfriend had just broken up with him like the day or the day before?
No,
she was pregnant again.
Oh, pregnant. I knew he was mad at her for a reason.
Yeah. So his wife, his first, I think it was his first wife. He was married a few times. But it's funny because all of his, so 2 of his ex-wives were interviewed in this other podcast, The Long Dance, that I listened to. And they were like, oh, Jimmy Ray. Like they just were so fond of him, even though he was pretty awful as a husband and father. Anyway, so he had all this stuff to basically impersonate a cop, as well as 2 keys to lockers at Watts Hospital. And it turns out that he had worked at Watts Hospital as an orderly, and he had worked with Pat Mann.
Oh my gosh.
He had been fired at some point for like leaving without telling anyone. Like he just would like take off when it was a shift. So he did kind of impersonate higher authorities in the hospital, not doctors, but like he would kind of try to boss the nurses around as if he knew better than they did when he was, quote, just an orderly.
Right. Were the storage lockers?
So I don't know if his keys were just like that he had them still from before he was fired.
Right.
I don't know what was in the storage lockers. I didn't ever hear anything else about that.
Okay.
But he did voluntarily take 2 polygraph tests that were inconclusive. So with nothing actually tying him to the murders of Pat Mann and Jesse McBane.
Except for the borrowed rope, right?
Yeah.
Except for the stolen rope, actually.
So I guess it's just whether this guy saying that was my rope and he took it, it's kind of hearsay. Like they have to think about what can hold up in court.
Yeah.
Right. So there are a lot of ways that you could argue your way out of that.
Yeah.
But yes, this is a frustrating thing, right?
Yeah.
So with nothing to tie him to that, they just let him go ahead and get charged with the motorcycle theft charges, and he ended up in the Florida State Penitentiary. So I guess that was where the theft had happened. So he ended up spending a few years in a Florida penitentiary until 1976, when he got out, and 5 days later landed a job working as a lab tech for a doctor named Dr. Robert Carl Britt.
Okay.
Now, remember this name.
I will. Robert Carl Britt. Is he the other bad doctor? Bad doctor.
So, Jimmy Ray died in 2009. He wasn't really a good person or a good dad. Like near the end, he was working at carnivals. He showed up to his estranged son that had never really known him at all and stayed with him for a few days. And then police came to arrest him for some other thing.
Right.
He just was kind of always getting in trouble, always breaking out of jail, always just he just was never doing the right thing.
He was literally a scoundrel. If you look up scoundrel and click on images, it's a picture of Jimmy Ray.
But he had no record of violence. He had all these records of theft, breaking out of jail, impersonating a policeman, which I don't know if he was ever charged for that, but it was clear that that was what he was doing.
Yeah.
But nothing on record of ever being violent towards another person.
Huh.
But this brings us to Doctor 2, the second doctor. So we've got the first doctor, we've got the scoundrel. Now we've got the second doctor.
Dr. Britt.
Yes.
Dr. Robert Carl Britt.
So, how did Britt and Jimmy know each other? You're about to tell us.
So he was the one who hired Jimmy Ray 5 days after he got out of jail. Yes. He was a doctor. He taught pulmonary lectures at Watts Hospital. His brother happened to live just around the corner from where the bodies were found.
Wow.
He was a known bully. He was a total bully. He liked to be in control. And he had a few incidents on his record, including assaulting a fellow racket club member, a 1961 incident while he was still in college where he was driving home for the weekend and struck and killed a 31-year-old father of 4.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was driving and this was a pedestrian, and apparently he drove 70 yards with this man on his windshield, and then the police stopped and talked to him and basically just let him go.
What?
I think he was sued civilly by the family and paid a few $1,000s.
Oh
my God.
That's crazy.
So he was known to have harassed colleagues at a former medical firm that he had practiced at. He would steal their lab coats, slash their tires, vandalize property, threaten them, even one time was seen brandishing a gun.
Yikes.
Golly.
In 1973, a teenage boy whose name I don't know, he had a run-in with Carl Britt. This occurred half a mile away from where Jesse McBane's car was found.
Okay.
So these two teen boys were hitchhiking. It was late at night. They'd been kind of partying at a park with friends, and they were trying to get rides home. So they were kind of goofing off and frustrated that nobody was picking them up, so they started flipping off cars that wouldn't stop. And a man pulled up, super upset, and said he was a police officer, pointed a gun at them, and told them to get in the car.
What?
And these kids were kind of, felt like they were invincible, a little brazen, so they stepped close enough that Dr. Britt, it was Dr. Britt, realized he was not in control, and he left. He got in his car and took off. So these kids thought that it was a police officer and thought that that was pretty inappropriate, so they took down his license plate number and called the police.
Oh my gosh, yes.
To report him.
Good for them. In the 70s, I feel like kids would be more scared of cops, even if a cop had bad behavior.
Yeah, so these kids were not your typical 70s kids. They were pretty they knew, I wouldn't have thought to do that either. But yes, so they called to report, and with the license plate and the type of car, they were able to determine that the car belonged to Dr. Robert Carl Britt. And later, I believe that this man, who was an adult at the time, but he was shown a picture of Dr. Robert Carl Britt and confirmed that that was the man that had impersonated an officer and pointed a gun at them.
Wow.
Wow.
And I don't believe that Dr. Robert Carl Britt ever received any kind of citation for this. I didn't see a record of it.
Well, this is weird. So he's the one that hired Jimmy Ray.
Yes.
And he liked to impersonate cops. Mm-hmm. And so did Jimmy Ray.
Yes.
Jimmy Ray and both Dr. Britt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. We don't know if the other doctor was into impersonating.
No, he wasn't.
As far as we know. Okay.
He was just volatile and had made a pass at Pat.
Wow. I cannot believe how many good suspects there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, we're getting quite a bit after these crimes happened, but in 1995, Dr. Britt followed a woman home because he didn't like the way that she was driving. he proceeded to call her names and beat the shit out of her.
What?
He punched and kicked her over 25 times.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This man needs to be needs to have some sort of consequences.
So he's clearly unhinged, but in court, he claimed self-defense. He was given a misdemeanor charge, but was able to have it removed from his record on appeal and maintain his medical license.
Wow.
No.
I need to see a picture of him. Stat. But I don't know where my phone is. Haley's got it.
I could not find a picture of him.
Oh, okay.
So in 1996, so apparently throughout the years between 1971 when the murders happened and 1996 when this happened, somebody called a few times, and we don't know if it was the same person, but somebody called Jesse McBane's household in the middle of the night a few times. And the mother said that it was usually at the time of year that the killings happened, she would receive a call saying something like, I know who killed your son, or something like that. But one time in 1996, somebody called in the middle of the night and said, I killed your son. And they identified themselves as Dr. Britt. But they traced the call to a plaza that was less than a mile from where the couple had been abducted. But for some reason I can't understand, Dr. Britt was never questioned about this.
What?
That is odd.
So somebody called, and maybe it was him, maybe it wasn't him. And I don't know why he would identify himself.
Maybe it was Jimmy. Wait, what year was it?
1996. So 25 years after.
So how long after the murders was Jimmy working for Dr. Britt?
5 years.
Okay. Gosh. Wow. For that many years, the mother was getting phone calls about her son.
Yeah. I mean, the Jesse McBane's sister, I didn't hear actually any interviews with the mother, but Jesse McBane's sister was the one. She was like, it was like a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times or something like that. I think it was,
right.
It wasn't every year. It was over 25 years. It happened a handful of times. But in 1996, that was the one where Dr. Britt's name was said.
That's so crazy.
You know, in 2010, the case had pretty much gone cold, like after a few years of not arresting anybody. So in 2010, there was a captain in Orange County, an Orange County detective named Captain Tim Horn, who just kind of came upon the evidence. He was like clearing out a room and came upon the box of evidence and became like super fascinated. So he and another detective named Don Hunter started working on it kind of in their spare time. And then separately, these two podcasters from the Long Dance started asking around. And at first they didn't share information with each other because the police were like, no, we can't just share with random podcasters. But as the podcasters gained the trust of the people in the community and started asking around, they ended up kind of collaborating a little bit. But it came out in the interviews with community members that there was a similar case to what happened to Jesse and Pat in 1972. And I'm going to read directly from...
Really? 1 year later?
Yes. I'm going to read directly from this article from nc.gov. It says, a young couple parked in a secluded area in the Duke Forest, not far from where Mann and McBane had been parked, reported that a lone gunman attempted to kidnap them and force them into the trunk of his car. The male, meaning the male in the car that was being attacked, the male resisted, and eventually the couple escaped, although not before the male victim was brutally pistol whipped by their attacker, suffering permanent nerve damage.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh.
And that wasn't brought up earlier in the investigation?
So it had been kind of a rumor, there was everybody was like, oh yeah, wasn't there something similar? But it was kind of almost treated as an urban legend with no witnesses coming forward.
Wow.
I wonder if it was also one of those things where it was reported, but not to the right agency, because later a retired SBI agent, S as in snake, SBI agent,
Thank you,
that had worked the case, contacted Detective Horn and shared his files, including a sketch that looked a lot like Dr. Britt.
Oh.
Don Hunter and Tim Horn contacted Dr. Britt and knocked on his door. He let them in. He acted friendly until he started to realize he felt a little bit cornered, and he got super duper nervous. He was shaking.
Did he pistol whip them?
Yeah, no, but they were actually afraid that he was going to pull a gun because they knew that he had a history. But he basically like left the room to compose himself. They kind of asked him, I think they asked him if he would take a polygraph test and give a DNA sample. He left the room to compose himself, and then he came back out and he was like, yeah, sure, like whatever you guys want.
He's like, here, I took it for you. I actually did it in the back room. Here's my DNA.
No, he basically like said that he was going to cooperate. And then as soon as they left and he shut the door, they got a call from his lawyer saying not to contact him ever again.
Oh my gosh. He did it. Allegedly.
Yeah, he's my number one suspect now. Did Dr. Britt and the other doctor, the first doctor you talked about, know each other or work at the same hospital?
They both taught at Watts, which is where Pat went to school.
They both taught at the same university. Wow.
So basically, listen, and I'm going to say this right now, like, you do not have to give the police your DNA, and you do not have to submit to a lie detector test to prove your innocence. Like that is not, to me, evidence that he is guilty. There are a whole bunch of things that make him seem like very problematic.
Yeah, agreed.
But that in itself is smart to not submit to that.
I mean, you better believe if anyone ever comes questioning me about anything, just because of our upbringing and just because our uncles are lawyers and my husband's a lawyer, the first words out of my mouth are, I need a lawyer. I want to.
Yes, you can have my DNA. Do you need my children's too? When you said because of our upbringing, I thought you were gonna say that we would just submit to authority. At the time that these murders occurred, DNA forensic analysis was not a thing, but with the rope, there was hope that possibly later on, like in 2018, when the DNA was, like technology was becoming more advanced, there was something called MVAC, which was basically like you take the item that could possibly have DNA on it and you kind of liquefy it, and then you try to extract all of the DNA possible from the liquid. And they had asked Dr. Britt for his DNA, and he refused, but they were able to actually get it kind of in a sneaky, roundabout way with some collaboration from a restaurant that he frequented. They were able to get his DNA, but with the amount of DNA that was on the rope, it was not enough to come to any kind of conclusion.
Dang.
And also, I do have to say that probably I don't know how much a doctor in the 70s would have known about forensics, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in those situations would wear gloves and maybe didn't leave anything behind if they...
Right. Yeah.
Also, Jimmy Ray's son, I told you that he had kind of contacted him. His son was contacted and also voluntarily gave DNA to see if his father was a match. And again, they just weren't able to extract enough DNA to find anything conclusive. So
it's too bad.
These murders remain unsolved, and investigators are still looking at it. And if you have any tips or anything that you know, anything that you've heard, they ask you to reach out to the Orange County Investigator's Office, and that's Orange County, North Carolina. There is one theory on Reddit, basically, that says it could possibly have been the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer was active from 68 to 69, and he did have kind of that lover's lane infatuation, but he was only known to be in California, and only 5 confirmed attacks, although he claimed up to 37. So that's just kind of a little like side theory that people have kind of put forward.
It's possible, because wasn't okay, I know we talked about a case earlier where someone assumed it was not, I think it was in Texas, like earlier, and I can't even remember the details. And I don't think we necessarily did a report on it. We just talked about it in passing, where it was possibly the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, it was the Lover's Lane.
Lover's Lane.
Wasn't it the Lover's Lane killer?
It's like Texarkana.
Yes, that was it. The Lover's Lane was possibly the Zodiac Killer. People are saying that the Black Dahlia was possibly the Zodiac Killer, even though that was like in the 40s?
Yeah.
And people are saying that the Snake River Killer is possibly the Zodiac Killer. So it's possible that the Zodiac Killer has just done a ton of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. All over the country. Who knows?
Anyway, that's all I have for this one. It was just such a sad one. And I'll share pictures on our social media of Pat and Jesse. They were just adorable, like a super, super cute couple. They were really happy in their pictures. And it's tragic that their lives were cut short. And they have a lot of people that love them and that still care about them and want answers. And it's tragic that we don't have them.
What is your, after doing all this research, what is your supposition?
I mean, I think that I wish I understood better the connection between Jimmy Ray and Dr. Britt. I think they probably encountered each other working at Watts Hospital before the murders. And then obviously Dr. Britt denied any connection, like having known him before hiring him after his time in the penitentiary in Florida. But, I think I'd like to know more about their relationship, but there's just no way to know now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's possible that they did it together.
Maybe.
Who knows?
But then the couple, if we compare the crime to the couple, I don't know, I'm going for Dr. Britt just because of the couple that was the attempted kidnapping in 72, where they said that it looked like Dr. Britt.
Yeah.
Well, then that's an interesting theory. It could be that Jimmy Ray maybe kind of knew something, even though he wasn't involved.
Yeah.
Maybe he kind of knew something, and maybe that's why he was acting so shifty. But yeah,
maybe.
Definitely. I mean, whether he did it or not, Dr. Britt does not seem like a nice guy.
No, but neither did the first doctor.
No.
And it was weird that he showed up late and disheveled, and it was like a quarter mile from his home.
And he's like a respiratory specialist too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like maybe my money is a little bit on the first doctor.
Well, we'll never know because 2 out of the 3 are dead. I could not find any records, like current records about Dr. Britt. As far as I could tell, he is still alive and living in Florida. All right. Haley, do you want to close us out on this one?
Thank you for listening. We are the Spooky Darlings. And if you would like to find us on our socials, we are at the Spooky Darlings podcast on TikTok and Instagram. And if you would like to email us your stories, or do you know of a psychopathic surgeon that you would like to talk to us about, email us at thespookydarlings@gmail.com. And thank you for listening. And we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, we will. We will talk to you later.
Hey, listeners, I'll call you right back. We got to go.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
5 stars.
Before we disappear into the shadows, don't forget, we're still sending out vinyl stickers. Leave us a rating and review and email us proof to thespookydarlings@gmail.com, along with your mailing address, and we'll send you some spooky snail mail while supplies last. And if your heart is still mourning that tote bag, may we gently tempt your way toward our merch store at thespookydarlings.printful.me. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Thanks for listening. And as always, stay spooky.